morning.
I said, well, I'll do it. We'll see what picks it up. I'll let you know if it's good if you want to, or I'll let them both do it. They can do it. Yeah. Tell you, Rudy's was in there first, and it was a little bit like they, when everyone came in, it was like stuff, and so they sent it.
Yes, I have you. Call me.
Well, we'll need that.
I do have that.
Were you going to ask?
I'm gonna answer the just in case. I just really said
Okay. All right, good morning, everyone. I'm Steve DeLaRoche. I'm the Special Magistrate for Code Enforcement for the City of Daytona Beach Shores. These are code enforcement hearings. The way we are going to proceed this morning is there is an agenda prepared by the city. I will do my best to go in order. However, if we have a person who is here for a case as opposed to a person who is not here for the case, I'm going to handle everyone who is here in person first and then circle back and get those that chose not to show up. The way we proceed is the city has the burden of proof. They will come and present testimony and evidence before me. Then you have an opportunity to cross-examine them. That is to ask them any question you wish. It is not your turn to present your case, just to ask them questions. At the close of the city's case and the close of any of your questions, then it is your turn. You can call your own witnesses on your own behalf. You can show me photographs, documents. You can testify. The city has the opportunity to ask you questions then. At the close of your case, if either side wishes to make a closing statement, I will listen to that, and then I will render a decision. If at any time you do not know what's going on or you don't know what your options are, please just raise your hand and I'll be more than happy to explain to you what you can do. I won't tell you what you should do. I will tell you you have the option of turning right or the option of turning left. Where you go is up to you. Okay? I realize that no one was here besides the city staff at the last meeting, but the first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Is there anyone here that has any additions, deletions, or questions regarding the minutes? Hearing no one, we will approve the minutes and move to initial hearings. Is Nader or Violet Nishawat here? No. Is there a representative of 2226 South Atlantic Avenue LLC here? Okay, no. Michael Leuenberger? Okay. All right, Mr. Leuenberger, you are on the agenda as case letter D, but because you're here in person and the other first three cases didn't show up, we'll take yours first. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Ms. Herstein, this is agenda letter D. The address is 3255 South Atlantic Avenue, Unit 705, Daytona Beach Shores, Florida, case PCDEF 2021-99. Good morning.
Your Honor.
Since this is your first time up this morning, could you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, please proceed.
Your Honor.
Mr. Nuremberger, did you get a packet from the City of Information? Okay. And this is D.
you, Your Honor. I'd like to ask that each of the documents provided by the city and the Code Enforcement Special Magistrate's report for this case be accepted as evidence along with the slides and the PowerPoint.
Okay, Mr. Leuenberger, do you have a legal objection to any of the documents that the city handed you coming into evidence? Okay, then they'll be accepted into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, this is an initial hearing for property owner Mr. Leuenberger. He previously had 2 permits, a building permit and a plumbing permit to replace the countertops and kitchen sink in his condo. Both permits expired, and our permit techs reached out to the contractors to get resolution a number of times. In early December, I sent out a notice of violation to the property owner. Good service was achieved for that notice, all of which is in this packet should we need to look at any individual documents.
Right?
In late January, after no movement of the permits or contact from the owner, I sent a statement of violation request for hearing and notice of hearing, and I posted the property. Good service was achieved for that second mailing. By February 9th, I'd heard from the owner, and over the last week, he worked hard with the contractors. Yesterday at 4 p.m., Mr. Leuenberger did obtain both replacement permits, bringing the property into compliance, which means that today we're bringing the property before you requesting order number 4, that you find the property was brought into violation, but beyond the time frame given for correction by the code enforcement staff, and that you impose reimbursement of minimum admin fees in the amount of $149.09, an affidavit for which you can see on page 5D26.
Okay. Mr. Leuenberger, do you have any questions for the state? I do appreciate you coming into compliance before this hearing. I can't remember the last time Ms. Herstein requested an order number 4, which means that somebody has fixed the problem before we start this morning. I am going to issue an order number 4 finding that you were in compliance this morning, but you failed to come into compliance within the required time. The cost to the city is $149.09. Can you pay that within 60 days? Okay. Do you have any questions, sir? Did you want to present anything? Okay. I didn't mean to go right to the end in your case. All right. So within 60 days, $149.09, and you can continue to watch this if you're riveted, or you're free to go. Okay? All right. Is there case letter E, Shores Commercial LLC? Is there a representative here? And sir, what is your name?
Angelo Rotondo.
Okay.
We do, Your Honor, we do not have an authorization to represent of Mr. Rotondo. However, he is a well-known representative for the ownership company. So at some point, I could call him as a witness if necessary, though I'm not certain that that will be, the case has progressed well enough that I'm not certain that that will be necessary. But
Okay.
we don't specifically have an authorization to represent for this case.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Herstein. Sir, in the future, if you are not the owner of the property that you're here to speak on, we do require you to fill out a form authorizing you to speak in the owner's stead. While I can't imagine a situation where someone off the street would want to get involved in a case for no particular reason than their own amusement, because what happens here is binding on the property, we need the owner to agree that you are their representative. Okay?
Unfortunately, sometimes at 22 years of being with the company, I think it makes sense.
I understand. I understand.
Thank you.
Okay, so 5E, which has a violation address of 3422 South Atlantic Avenue, Daytona Beach Shores, Florida, case PCDEF 2021-94. Ms. Herstein?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an initial hearing for a case which began last year. late summer of last year, a stop work order was issued by Inspector Steve Edmonds for an AC unit being installed without a permit on the building. He hand-delivered it to an employee inside the store. And you can see that affidavit on page 5E5, or that stop work order, I'm sorry, on page 5E5. In December of last year, a notice of violation was sent after nothing was submitted. A notice of violation was sent. Good service was achieved for that notice. And again, all of these papers are in this packet, should we need to look at any individually. February 2nd, no mechanical permit submissions were made, so we generated a statement of violation request for hearing and notice of hearing. Good service was achieved for that mailing. It was also hand-delivered to the general manager 2 days after it was mailed.
Okay.
On February 9th, we heard from the local supervisor of the property owner. Yesterday, we received, and then subsequently, and yesterday we did receive 2 very similar mechanical permit applications within a few minutes of each other. Steve called the owner's rep to determine which one should be ready for issuance or reviewed, because that's, unusual to have 2 for the same thing.
2 different companies submitted them?
Yeah. One was from the CVS mechanical company. They typically handle all of the CVS's mechanical, and that they're in Tampa. The other was from a mechanical contractor used locally by Angelo as the owner's rep. So he had both people working on it at the same time. Angelo suggested that we ready both of them and issue the permit to whomever came in first. Steve also told Angelo at that time that a notice of commencement was required before we could inspect due to the job cost. It's a higher job cost than just a standard unit in like a condo unit or a single-family residence.
Okay.
So it requires a notice of commencement. Today, we're bringing this case before you, requesting order number 7, which is that you find the property in violation, that you grant the property owner 30 days or until March 18th to correct the violation, including obtaining an approved final inspection on the required permit, or fines of $150 per day would be imposed. We also request reimbursement of minimum administrative fees of $149.09, and you can see an affidavit for that on page 5E21. And I would like to call Steve to the podium if I could.
Okay. Good morning.
Morning.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the true self you got?
Yes, I do.
Steve, if you wouldn't mind, please state your name, your position for the record, and how long you've been employed by the city.
Steve Edmonds, I'm the deputy building official, plan examiner and inspector. I've been here for 19 years.
Thanks, Steve. And can you tell me if the facts as they've been presented to this point and have been presented accurately as you recall them?
Yes, they have.
And did you have a chance to look over in the packet the stop work order that you presented and any of the other documents?
Yes, I have.
And all of the other documents in the packet for this case? And do they accurately reflect those you created over the course of the case?
Yes, they do.
Thanks, Steve. Do you have anything to add that might be helpful for His Honor to make a decision this morning?
No, not at this time.
Mr. Edmonds, they installed an air conditioner and it works, right? They haven't been without air conditioning since... Okay, I was just curious when I read this last night.
No, what happened is, there was a crane that was set up there. That's usually a giveaway. They're setting up an air conditioner on the roof, so I stopped in there, told them they needed to get the permit, gave them the stop work order, but told them they could complete the work so that they, it doesn't affect their business. Because it was a licensed contractor at least, so I just told them to follow up with the permit. They never followed up with the permit.
Okay, I appreciate that. Sir, do you have any questions for either of the city officials?
No, I do not.
Okay. Ms. Herstein, anything you'd like to add?
Not at this time, no. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anything you'd like to tell me, sir?
Yes, if you, just that,
Well,
CVS
come on up here.
Okay.
I don't let anybody talk from the gallery. You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes,
Okay, and your name again was?
Angelo Rotondo.
Okay.
The only thing I'd like to let the court know is that CVS is responsible for changing of all AC units. They have changed those AC units many times before, being so close to the water. This was a surprise to us, but they are responsible for that, and that's why the confusion with the two permits. I didn't want to take a chance. I wanted to get this stuff in to the city, so I had Castelier go in, take a look at the unit, make sure they did the job right, so he wasn't in, any violation, and then submit the permit application. So just
Okay.
want you to know that this was not DiMucci's or Shaw's issue, it was more of a CVS issue. But because we're the owners, it became ours.
I fully understand. I fully understand. I've heard of DiMucci's, and I didn't for a second think it was y'all, especially when Steve told me that they had a crane.
Yes.
And they didn't bother to take a permit because you've been here long enough to know exactly how the game is played.
Correct.
All right, well, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any questions for him, Ms. Hurstein? All right, so I'm going to issue an order number 7, order that the condition be rectified within the next 30 days, that is March 18th. If it is not, then $150 a day fines until complied with, and $149.09 costs the city within 60 days.
Thank you, Your Honor. And within that 30-day time frame, are you including that they obtain approved final inspection for?
Oh, yes, yes, absolutely. All right. Sir, again, you're free to go, or you can...
Thank you.
Oh, there goes our entire audience.
There may be many people on YouTube at this moment.
Right.
Or on the website. And Heather, if that's not accurate, please don't.
Yes, I'm sure the Chinese are wondering why the sudden dip in Olympic viewing. Okay. Having dealt with the 2 cases that we had people here, we're going to go back to the top of the agenda and start with letter A, violation address 1910 South Atlantic Avenue in Daytona Beach Shores, CDEF 2021-50. Ms. Hurstein?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to ask that each of the documents provided by the city and the code enforcement's special magistrate's notebook for this case be accepted as evidence along with the slides in the PowerPoint.
Okay, hearing no objection, accepted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, this is an initial hearing which began last summer. I found 10 violations, sent notice of violation, achieved good service, and then along the way, violations were brought into compliance one by one. There was a potentially dangerous violation, which was prioritized and dealt with first, and then they started chipping away at the other violations one by one. And got to a point where all violations but violations C and J were rectified. And when I looked for the last time, late fall, I realized that the 2 violations relating to the pole sign were not any closer to being rectified, those violations C and J. So I sent a statement of violation and statement of violation request for hearing and notice of hearing for today's meeting. I did achieve good service on that after achieving good service on the notice of violation. Over the last 10 days, I have spoken with the property owner and the business owner a number of times, with the end result being that Monday, we received a sign and sign electrical permit to remove the existing pole sign. They're ready to be obtained, but they have, as of 8:30, not been actually obtained at this point.
So they're going to take down that sign that's in the picture
They're going to
and
take
put
down
up a
the
new
sign
one?
that's in the picture. I would like to show you just 3 slides of pictures to coincide with those particular violations
Okay.
before making a recommendation. Well, they're hidden, but not acting hidden. So let's go ahead and So just, this slide is an example of some of the violations which were rectified in time. You can see that the fence was painted, and the building was painted, and the columns were painted, and the upper left-hand picture, the second arrow over from the left showed an electrical situation which was potentially very dangerous. They did rectify that early on. The two violations that remain, violation C, Cyber Fuels full sign cover was not permitted before or since its placement, north and south faces. And you can see the initial inspection and then the follow-up January 24, 2022, remaining much the same. And violation J, the sign cabinet base is not in good repair. You can see the upper left where the cabinet's coming apart. The December pictures show you that a little more closely. And then the January 24th picture showing that it remained much the same.
What really caught my eye in reviewing the book was how cheap the gas was. And I thought, ooh, I should probably go there on my way to the hearing.
I also noticed that in over 3 weeks' time, it stayed the same. It didn't go up where others went up, so that was interesting. That was the diesel price. So here's a screenshot taken February 10th. That was when no applications had been submitted, but as I said, they are fully submitted now, ready to be issued. And in light of that, the city staff is requesting you issue an order number 7, finding the property in violation, violations C and J, that you grant the property owner until April 1st, which is just over 6 weeks, to bring the property into compliance, or assess daily fines of $150. We also ask that you impose reimbursement of minimum administrative fees of $149.09, an affidavit for which can be found on 5A-21. And I'd also like to, just in case, suggest that if, while we are having this meeting, those applications do happen to be obtained, that you also allow us to advise you at that point that it was actually a motion number 4 that was appropriate, which would be a no fine standing order for those 2 violations.
Okay.
Just in case.
All right. So we're going to take the unprecedented step of delaying the issuance of an order till after Ms. Herstein gets back to her office to check to see if the permits have been picked up. So if they have not been picked up, it would be in order number 7, with property having to be brought into compliance by April 1st. If they fail to do so, $150 per day until brought into compliance, with $149.09 to be paid cost to the city within 60 days. If that permit was picked up, then it would be in order number 4, and still the cost to the city of $149.09 within 60 days.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay?
And
Thank you.
I should explain that a motion number 4 is basically acknowledging compliance if it had been achieved, and in order to not repeat within the next 5 years, or it could be treated as a repeat violation.
Right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Okay, we have case B, which is property owner 2226 South Atlantic Avenue, LLC, which happens to be coincidentally located at 2226 South Atlantic Avenue in Daytona Beach Shores. Case CDEF 2021-87. Now, I noticed that C is also the same property owner. Do you want to do both at once, or do you want to do them separately?
I would ask that I have streamlined the second to go a little more quickly, but because the violations are not exactly the same from one parcel to the next, I'm gonna, if it's all right with you, I'll go quickly, but treat them
No,
separately.
it's fine with me. I'm just giving you the option.
Thank you.
All right, please
Okay.
proceed.
This is an initial hearing for a vacant lot directly on A1A, with a landlocked vacant lot directly behind or west of it. But this case deals with the one that's directly on A1A with that address, 2226 South Atlantic Avenue. We received a complaint which met the Florida statutes regarding complaints and found 4 violations, which I'll show pictures of in just a second. After I tell you that notice of violation was sent. I did achieve good service. I re-inspected after 30 days had passed and saw no full rectification of any of the 4 violations or significant rectification of any either. Did send statement of violation, request for hearing and notice of hearing, and achieved good service again in the form of certified mail to the registered agent. I have not heard from the registered agent or the owner or anyone representing the owner, unfortunately, after either the notice of violation or the statement of violation request for hearing. I very recently learned that the 2 lots are being planned by the owner to be the future site of a large surf shop called Surf Style. The contact for the eventual site plan is engineer Ruth Killick at Zeb Cohen and Associates, who was very nice to take my call yesterday afternoon. He offered to pass along emails to the owner, so I sent him the hearing notices and asked if the owner had a request for a time frame to correct, basically to weigh in with how long we hope to gain. As is understandable, I did not hear back from that. It was a very short amount of time, but hopefully that will yield some type of contact. I would like to briefly go through the violations. There are just 4 of them and with pictures.
Okay.
Violation A is growth of grass and weeds over 12 inches high in places, especially west of the wood fence. You can see things poking out with the 2 orange arrows at the top picture. You can see it much better in the bottom 2 pictures. So you can see this particular lot from both A1A and also from a side street, Robin Terrace, and that is, there's a little bit of a dead-end street, and I'll show you a little bit better picture of that so you see what I'm talking about, but this is the view on the bottom right is the picture from that dead-end street looking east, and the picture of the bottom left is the same exact area, but viewed from the east. It's just tucked behind the fence. And I would like to point out, I didn't show you in this picture above, the red outline is around this particular parcel that we're talking about now, and it extends past the fence. The 2 blue arrows point to the fence, so it does extend just beyond that fence line.
So that's the boundary of the property?
That's the
red?
boundary of this parcel, yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
And then, obviously, to the west of this or left of this is the other parcel that we'll be talking about shortly, with the same owner, just different parcel numbers.
So odd, they're not perfect geometric shapes.
All right, violation B, property is not kept free of weed, scratch, and debris. You can see the upper left picture was the October 25th initial inspection, and there are follow-up pictures of different areas at the front of a piece of property with still debris and all sorts of just things around not being maintained. Violation C, wood fence is not in good repair and maintained to present a cared-for aesthetic appearance. Some areas are deteriorated and discolored by mildew. You can see it at the top and the initial picture, and the follow-up I gave you both a wide view of the fence kind of in the middle there, and then a closer up of one of the parts of the fence that's especially deteriorated. And violation D, dead palm fronds are untrimmed. You can see it in the top left. Not all of the palms that you see are on this parcel, but obviously some of the bigger ones, and the 2 bottom pictures, the ones that are most clearly visible, are on this parcel. City staff is requesting that you issue an order number 7, finding the property in violation, so that you grant the property owner 60 days or until April 18th to correct all violations or fines of $100 per day would begin. That you also impose reimbursement of the administrative fees of $149.09. There's an affidavit on page 5-41 for those fees.
Okay. Having heard the testimony and evidence, I find that the property is in violation. Issue an order number 7. Give the property owner 60 days to rectify violations, or $100 per day will attach thereafter, and $149.09 cost to the city within 60 days.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. And then the final case is, again, property owner 2226 South Atlantic Avenue, LLC, which is located at 2226 South Atlantic Avenue, or directly there behind, Daytona Beach Shores, case number CDEF 2021-88. All right, Ms. Hurstein.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to ask that each of the documents provided by the city and the code enforcement special magistrate notebook be accepted as evidence along with the slides and the PowerPoint presentation.
Okay. So be accepted into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is also an initial hearing, but for the lot immediately west of the vacant lot we just discussed at 2226 South Atlantic Avenue. And there's a picture up on the screen showing the red outline around this particular parcel that we're talking about now.
Okay.
The bottom shot shows the view of the two neighbors on Robin Terrace. It's not a particularly great view, especially when the screening, which is required to be there, has blown all around and been lifted and maintained. After the complaint that we received, I found 6 violations on this parcel of land. Again, I sent a notice violation in the same mailing as for the previous case. Good service was achieved to the registered agent. Again, I re-inspected, saw no violations had been rectified. Then I received an additional neighbor complaint from a different vantage point of the lot. Sent a statement of violation, request for hearing, and notice of hearing, and did achieve good service for that mailing as well to the registered agent. And I'd like to briefly go through the pictures for these 6 violations.
Okay, yes, please.
Violation A, growth of grass weeds over 12 inches high in places. And you can see along the fence line there in the top right picture. And then everything, 2 pictures at the bottom, much the same. It's not overgrown completely across the lot because there's gravel in places where things aren't growing, but mainly along the edges. Violation B, the fence between this property, which is zoned GC1 and a residential district, is not being maintained to be opaque. Screening is incompletely attached in places and missing in others. And you can see some examples of that. In the bottom right picture, there's a faint pink line under areas where it's just removed. And so people have backyards that back up to this and do complain when it's gotten a little bit out of maintenance the way that it's
Okay.
supposed to be. Violation B, fence between the property. Oh, this is the follow-up picture for that, showing that it's much the same. The pink line is much like the earlier pink line. Those were all from October 25th. And then these are the re-inspection pictures. I apologize about that. Violations C and D, piles of yard waste and debris present toward the north side of the property. And and D is open storage of weeds, trash, debris, and yard waste in piles toward the north side of the property. You can see it in the far distance in the top left picture. You can see mounds of basically rotting palm fronds. And then there's a much better follow-up, closer up picture of those same mounds in the bottom right picture. You can see it more clearly. None of that was addressed. Violation E, chain link fence is not in good repair, rust covered in some places and falling outward in others. And this is pictures that we've already seen, but just showing that the fence itself is not in good shape. It's coming apart in places and rusty. Violation F, dead palm fronds are untrimmed, and that's across the edges of the property, like the overgrown weeds. City staff is requesting, Your Honor, that you issue an order number 7, finding the property in violation, and that you grant the property owner 60 days or until April 18th to correct, or fines of $175 per day will begin, and that you impose reimbursement of administrative fees in the amount of $149.09 with an affidavit supporting those minimum fees on page 5C-32.
Okay. Thank you. I find the property is in violation. Issue an order number 7. Order the owner to come into compliance within 60 days, or $175 per day shall attach. Order that the cost to the city of $149.09, be paid within 60 days. Thank you. Okay. We have no further cases. The next code enforcement special magistrate meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, March 16th at 9 a.m. Unless anyone has anything else they'd like to bring up, we are adjourned until then. Thank you. Gwen, I have a couple of questions.